President Silva has called a US decision to impose visa bans on officials involved in former President Jair Bolsonaro's trial arbitrary and baseless, saying foreign interference in the judiciary was unacceptable. In a statement released today, Lula said the action violated fundamental principles of respect and sovereignty between nations. This comes as Trump had earlier imposed visa restrictions on Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. The visa bans were a response to the court's decision to issue search warrants and restraining orders against Bolsonaro, who is accused of plotting a coup after losing the 2022 election. In addition to Moraes, 7 other justices from Brazil's Supreme Court were also hit by the US visa restrictions. Trump has called the case against Bolsonaro a witch hunt. Bolsonaro is on trial before Brazil's Supreme Court on charges of plotting a coup to stop Lula from taking office in January 2023. Bolsonaro has denied that he led an attempt to overthrow the government, but has, however, acknowledged taking part in meetings aimed at reversing the election's outcome. Well, joining us to discuss this situation and the broader ramifications across the Americas, Rabinder Sachdev, an international affairs expert who is joining us from New Delhi. Rabinder, thank you ever so much for taking the time to talk with us. The response that we've had from President Lula, widely expected, but of course this as relations between Brazil and the US are breaking down. Do you think that that breakdown in relations is primarily due to this situation surrounding Jair Bolsonaro? And why is the Trump administration so keen to be a part of that process?
Thank you so much. To a certain extent due to Bolsonaro, but not fully due to that. Remember, Twitter was banned, or there were issues with Twitter in Brazil. And there was a time when, yes, Musk and Trump were good friends. So it goes back to that also. Brazil has imposed restrictions on US technology and digital companies, some of them, right? They are very unhappy with Brazilian regulations. That has been one reason also. Another reason is US agriculture, ethanol, especially exports. So that tends more towards, economics. But yes, regulations and Bolsonaro, of course, and Twitter, the ban on Twitter, which was there. But the big picture is that also that Bolsonaro is a right-wing leader. Lula here is a left-wing socialist leader. He has his own views in terms of how the state should run and be a welfare state. And in Trump's scheme of things, generally they're not happy with countries or nations which are run by socialist leaders. That's one. And especially so in those countries where there is a alternative, somewhat strong right-wing candidate or right-wing leader, like in the case of Brazil. And also, in a bigger picture, the US looks at Latin America, the whole of South America, as its backyard. And now they want to try and ensure that China, which already has, by the way, made many inroads in many Latin American countries, America is trying to, reverse some of that. So reverse the Chinese expansion into Latin America, as well as reverse any left or socialist leaders in Latin America. That is more or less American foreign policy in this region.
Yes, Rabinder, of course, experts have drawn parallels between Jair Bolsonaro's election loss and also Donald Trump's after that, of course, 2020 election and then the following Capitol riots that we spoke about earlier today. Of course, as well, Jair Bolsonaro talking about taking part in meetings aimed at reversing the election's outcomes. Do you think that the US administration might be taking a step too far here in potentially trying to influence a criminal proceeding in a country far outside of its borders?
Sir, the days of, polite diplomacy and, whatever you're planning to do, you do, but you don't, you don't use harsh words. Those days are gone. America now believes, and Trump believes, in using raw power, raw words. So if he thinks, which is what he is thinking right now, And yes, you're right. Bolsonaro was, in fact, or is also known as the Trump of the tropics. He is very much like a Trump personality. He's very Trump-utopian. By the way, my book on Trump is out today, so I'm kind of reminded of Trump-utopia. So Bolsonaro is very much a persona with whom Trump has an affinity. So this would certainly have an impact on Brazil-America relations. See, you may push down someone. Let's say America is pushing Lula, America is pushing BRICS, okay, for example, and other countries. Over a period of time, some of these things would backfire on America. But at the present, in the present, it's America's currency which holds, both in terms of the money, the economic power they have. I mean, every country wants to sell to America because that's 25% of the world market economy, is approximately, right? So is money and muscle power, military power, which America has, and Trump is bent upon using that power. So far, and of course, earlier presidents have also used that power. American presidents have ordered assassinations even in Latin America, right? Chile, I think, yeah, Chile is the famous one. But in all countries, Nicaragua they invaded, Panama they've just armed twisted. So, but Panama is Trump now. So previous presidents have also exercised American power, but in a much, much, much less, mm, less expansive and deeper way. Trump is using a hammer. So he is basically using a sledgehammer. He knows that's the